leaning towards Trump.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Are you voting? Have you voted yet?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What are you voting for? Policies, reasons?
I'm really voting really for the economy. I'm trying to think about the future and what it's looking like. From my understanding, it's looking like the type of class I want to be in that is leaning towards Trump.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I don't really believe she's gonna cut the student debt or the country's debt. That never happens with any president. So her pushing that agenda, I don't think that's gonna happen.
So you don't think it happens with any president?
No,
Well, you know that's not true.
really.
Yeah. I mean, like Clinton balanced the budget.
And where is it back now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I'm saying, you're saying it doesn't happen with any president. I'm not saying that it can't be done. And the economy was great under Obama.
No, I wouldn't say that. Did we not go through a recession with?
You know, we came out. He pulled us out of a recession. I'm saying Biden pulled us out of a recession as well.
Look at that, man. There you go. You got pulled out of recession.
So if he pulled us out of a recession, you don't like his economic policies?
Nah, I wouldn't say that. I guess it depends on what fee work at. I mean, for my dad has to pay even more in taxes now when with Biden the trade that he did with Trump.
But you realize the tax policies we're under now, these are Trump's tax policies. They expired.
One extra shit. No, I'm cooked then. I think I'm cooked then. Yeah, I think I'm cooked out. No, I didn't know that. No, yeah, leaning towards Trump.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, that's the problem. Welcome to Let It Be Known. It's a problem too. I was watching. It's funny Greer put that one up, but I was watching some other videos too. And it's like they pick these young and old, extremely uneducated, uninformed Black folks to talk to, and look, you support who you support, but when you want to take a stand, um, it seems like you would educate yourself. And I saw this video last night, and it was someone doing the same thing that Don Lemon was doing there, but they were at a bodega in New York, in Brooklyn, I believe it was. And they were coming in. It was black folks coming in, hood guys. And I call them hood guys because that's just the way they from the hood. And Trump, why? Oh man, one guy said the whole stimulus thing, which is again something that makes absolutely no sense. He was not responsible for the stimulus. Someone else said, "Well, I don't think she can take on people like Vladimir Putin." And I'm thinking, once again, uninformed, uneducated, um, anything but a black woman to certain individuals. That's really what it comes down to. The disgustingly uneducated individuals who come in who get interviewed. It's got to stop. It's that old stereotype. They put the worst black folks and the worst Latino folks on camera. It's one thing if you're able to articulate. That's fine. If you want to, whoever you support is fine, but articulate it. This guy, everything he said, Clinton. Don Lemon said to him, Clinton balanced the budget, and the dude says, "Well, where is he now?" You probably was just born when Clinton was president. Talk about where is he now? And that's the other part of it, the civics part of it. Presidents can only go 2 terms until this one. If Trump wins and Heritage Foundation takes over, that's it. As Trump himself said, this is it. There's going to be no more elections. But um 2 terms. The other civics lesson, again, let's talk about the taxes. He said his dad said he's paying more in taxes. What his dad is probably saying to this young man is that his property taxes have probably been going up. You can't blame the federal government for that. If you own a home and you look at your tax bill, the overwhelming majority of the tax bill is from your school district. So it becomes who is in charge of the school district? It's the school board. It's not even your congressman or your senator, and definitely not your president. I sold my house in New Jersey because the taxes, beautiful house, they're built nicely, but the taxes. kept going up, and it's more than the mortgage payment itself. And I came to this understanding early, especially at the point. It was at the point where everyone was overcharging for their homes because it was like the hot sellers market. And I came to understand this. If I paid off the house in perpetuity, I would be paying at least, at least $1,200 a month in state property taxes. $1,200 a month. And that's going to go up. One of the things that doesn't happen with property taxes is that they go down. It just doesn't happen. You might get a break here and there where they don't raise the taxes, and it's mostly again, and 80% of that tax bill is the school board, and the schools are atrocious. But that has nothing to do with the president and the vice president and the administration. It has nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with them. And so folks just not they refuse to get educated, and it's more pronounced because I believe you have a black woman involved. And so ignorance is not bliss, David. Ignorance, it just becomes the norm. It is just willful ignorance at times, most times, willful ignorance. That's the thing watching this stuff. And when you see the attacks on a woman because she's black and because she has a little bit of power, because she's accomplished a lot of things, it becomes infuriating. Becomes infuriating, especially given the backdrop, folks, of we've seen, we've been talking about Diddy the last couple of weeks with his situation, and those are mostly black women that have been abused allegedly. And when we see the road for black women in America, and you finally, not finally, but you get one who has accomplished what Kamala Harris has accomplished in her career. I'm not, listen, she chose politics. I wouldn't choose politics for nothing. I cover it, don't care about it. But the fact is, she chose a field and she excelled in it and is excelling in it. Even if she loses, it doesn't mean that she has not accomplished what most could only dream of accomplishing. She's on the threshold of becoming the most powerful person in the world. And that's not an accident. That's not because she is incapable. That's not because she slept her way there. That's simply because she's accomplished something that Shirley Chisholm dreamed about and paved the way for. And so it gets infuriating even in politics when you get ignorant black folks, ignorant Latino folks, like the sister of that Mexican soldier that Trump disparaged, the young Mexican. I won't. Let me rephrase that. A young American soldier of Mexican descent that Trump disparaged, and her sister says, "I'm still supporting him." Oh, he didn't say those words. You was not in the situation room. You just want to continue to blindly support someone so who's just so ugly in character. Carol Brown says you're absolutely right because the black male were going to vote for Hillary Clinton hands down. But now with black women, the black men are against her. And that's a great point. You didn't hear the vitriol. You didn't see them putting cameras in front of the faces of uneducated black folks when Hillary was running. You didn't see that. So um, she, while Trump is delivering his so-called closing arguments, in which they are filled with racist and misogynistic remarks and vulgar remarks about Arnold Palmer's penis size. The vice president was on CNN to deliver some of her closing arguments last night at a town hall, and flat out, without hesitation, when asked by Anderson Cooper, if Trump is a fascist, she says, "Absolutely, I believe he is," without hesitation. Good for her, because one of the things that in covering politics all these years you get tired of is this beating around the bush, trying to be politically correct, particularly when it comes to people, Democratic side. You get tired of that same old, same old. Just call it what it is. Call it what it is. They're mad at Joe Biden because he said he should be locked up. Trump should be locked up. But no one got all incensed with Trump when he kept leading the chant, "Lock her up." We're talking about Hillary Clinton. No one gets upset with the man who says that he wants to either jail or kill his political enemies. But they're mad at Biden because with the slip of a tongue, he said, "Lock him up." The two-way street here is unbelievably unbalanced. It should be, "Hey, what's good for the geese?" But it's not that. It's like they yelled and screamed, Biden cognitive decline. No one's yelling and screaming about this other guy's obvious decline. He has not articulated anything except hatred, spewing when and you've seen him ask straight up questions. There's
You may see them holding a piece of paper when they're asking their
there's no coherent answers whatsoever. This morning, several topics. DC, Washington, DC, speaking of the elections, making serious preparations for every possible outcome ahead of the 2024 presidential election, including the potential involvement of the National Guard. We're going to talk about that. And a groundbreaking new study is about to shine a light on how structural racism has shaped the health and lives of generations of Americans. And there's also a tragic event that's shaken Georgia's Cephalo Island, where a dock collapsed and it sent dozens of people into the water during a celebration of the Gullah Geechee tribe. We got to talk about that, and a long overdue recognition for a Civil War hero who stole a Confederate ship and sailed to freedom. This happening in South Carolina. We're going to talk about that this morning as well. Austin, it says Trump is sitting in jail forever and ever. Amen. Still is not enough time for me. Like Austin. So a forever sentence is not enough, huh? What are you gonna do to him? Austin's ready to bring out the death penalty or something. It sounds like. DC is the ND preparing for chaos. The nation's capital is officially on high alert as we approach the November 5th election. Officials are preparing for any and all scenarios, especially given the unpredictable, I should say, nature of the last couple of elections. As much as the hope is for a smooth election process, federal and local authorities are preparing for major disruptions. The Department of Homeland Security has designated has also, I should say, designated January 6, 2025, a national special security event. January 6th, of course, is when they officially certify the election. And we know what happened on January 6th, 2021. They're expecting unrest, and now they say they're not taking any chances, even on election night. Mayor Bowser, who really she was stymied by Republicans in her efforts to send in the National Guard in 2021 and trying to stop that chaos, now does indeed have the authority to call in the National Guard. She's been given that authority now for these events. And of course, all of the chaos stems from the simple fact that misinformation has never been more pervasive, particularly on social media. And you got one of the MAGA kings, Elon Musk, actually running and owning Twitter and running all of this disinformation to the point where the members of the House of Representatives have been calling him out for it. Assistant City Administrator Chris Rodriguez also warned that DC could face days or weeks of uncertainty as the country awaits for a clear winner. We know that it's probably not going to happen election night, that they will declare a winner with all of the mechanisms and falsities put in place by the GOP. They will never declare. And there's also, speaking of not declaring a winner or even saying that the election is over or whatever, Donald Trump, there's now growing belief that at a certain time on election night, he's going to declare victory without the election, without the vote being counted, without any certification done. And of course, even if he's losing, there is growing concern that he is going to declare victory. And it's going to further throw things into chaos. Michelle Madison says she won't be on the Amtrak train on January 6th. What a nightmare. You gotta take the Acela, Michelle. Come on. That way you're not, you're not traveling on the local stuff. But we know that what happened in January 2021. So in preparation, DC will have 4,000 additional law enforcement officers on the ground. They will be inspecting any protesters, keeping a close eye on them. Any unrest, they say, will be swiftly handled. And for the first time, the Capitol Police, as we said, they actually have the authority to call in the National Guard without needing prior approval. And so they are really, really preparing for the absolute worst, not only January 6th, but on election night itself. So, folks, if you're going to be in DC election night, which let it be known will be, um, you got to be careful and be alert, be on guard for any potential situation, and just make sure you're being safe. You better believe I will be somewhere where there is a National Guards person. Or I'll just hang out with Austin. Austin is like very powerful. So he says, speaking of Austin, he says Pennsylvania and other states should count mail-in ballots as they come in and not begin counting the day after. Yeah, and that's another issue too. And we know what happened in Georgia, and the courts have stepped in and said, "Nope, you're going to count this and get us to count immediately." So this morning, this is interesting. So the federal government is paying for this historic nationwide study that's about to begin, and it could actually change the way Americans understand the long-term impacts of structural racism. Researchers from Michigan State University and Rutgers have secured almost $4 million in federal funding to investigate how racist policies spanning over a century have impacted the housing, health, and aging of Black Americans. This is the first time a study of this scale and focus has been conducted, and is poised to provide some groundbreaking insights. The research will look at 800 adults in Baltimore, specifically focusing on how policies like redlining, predatory lending, urban renewal, and segregation have shaped the lives of Black residents. And so, Rutgers and Michigan, they're getting about $4 million to do the study. And here's my take. I mean, I don't have no problem with this study. Um, for $4 million, we could have done that study. Yeah, I mean, the Black press could do that study. We could have researchers from Michigan and Rutgers. Why not give us the money and let us do the study? Let us do the study. I'd do it. We'd do it. We can do it. And we would make sure that it's more than just 800 people in Baltimore. I think we need so when they talk about these studies, you need uh, a you know, a grander number total. So, but they're gonna look at the effect, um, even in housing opportunities, and how the lack of for African Americans have created have created generations really of economic hardship. And they say that over time, this kind of systemic exclusion has contributed to wealth disparities that persist to this day. We know all about that, right? And the study is not just about money, it's about how racist policies have impacted health, both physical and mental. Researchers are going to examine the connection between poor housing conditions, lack of access to quality health care, and, of course, the accelerated aging that has been observed in Black communities. They say Black don't crack, but this systemic racism has made Black folks age beyond what they should have, is what they're saying here. And there's been other studies, smaller scale studies, have shown that Black Americans experience aging related health problems earlier than their white counterparts. And this study is going to dive into a lot deeper into why that is. They'll focus on factors like chronic stress, exposure to environmental hazards, and the lack of healthcare um, access, and of course segregation. Mike V says it sounds like they are unbundling exactly. They're unbundling HR 40 to the universities to do the research on the study of reparations and no longer waiting on Congress. 100%. Dr. Nicole says, if that does not push forward the arguments for reparations, then I don't know what will. And Oren G says, I need to see the racial makeup of the people doing the study. And that's my point. I mean, I don't have a problem with the study, but there are some things, you could call the Black press for. Again, yeah, there's what, 200 Black-owned newspapers and media companies in the Black press family. And we do just that, right? We're reporters and journalists and media folks. Seems like the reach could be a lot stronger if you went that route. But they're doing it, and as Mike V says, it does indeed, although they do not allude to HR 40, and probably with good reason they don't allude to it. With all of the challenges to everything that DE&I and banning of history and all of that the Heritage Foundation and their folks, their cronies have pushed. And probably a good thing that they have not tied this to HR 40 directly. Tragedy, I should say, on Sapelo Island. So you got to understand the Gullah Geechee folks down in the South, who are mainly down in the South. These are folks, ancestors of slaves, and they they have formed quite the community um, from North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, and they had a celebration on Georgia's Cepelo Island, and a dock collapsed a few days ago, sending more than 20 people into the water. And tragically, 7 elders, ages 73 to 93, lost their lives. The event was meant to be a joyous occasion, which is supposed to celebrate the rich culture of the Gullah Geechee community. Um, and these are again descendants of enslaved Africans who have lived on this island for generations. The annual celebration draws hundreds of people from across the country to honor the community's unique heritage. But as they waited on the dock for the ferry to take them back to the mainland, disaster struck. And what makes the tragedy, they say, more painful is that warnings about the dock safety had reportedly been made. Residents say they had raised concerns about the structure's stability months before the collapse. One resident even said he bounced on the dock to show officials how unsafe it was, but nothing was done. Now those warnings seem tragically prophetic. In the wake of the collapse, an investigation has been launched by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation and the Department of Natural Resources. Attorney Ben Crump, of course, known for his work in high profile civil rights cases, is now representing several of the victims' families. He's called for accountability and vowed to ensure that justice is served for the families of the deceased. The tragedy, of course, raises questions about the broader issue of infrastructure neglect in these marginalized communities. Cepelo Island is accessible only by boat, and the ferry dock is a critical lifeline for residents and visitors. The fact that this vital piece of infrastructure was allowed to fall into such disrepair has led many to question whether the state has done enough to ensure the safety and well-being of the island's residents. It's such a tragedy. It is really a tragedy. And yeah, and good to see Ben Crump on the case. Mike V says, I would like to know who performed the inspection and who approved of the inspection. And you can rest assured, this is among the things that Ben Crump will get to the bottom of for sure, because this is really a very unavoidable crisis. I believe we have audio. No, okay. But it's a very unavoidable. It was a very unavoidable crisis there, um, down in Georgia. There's no way that this should have happened. They have been complaining about it, and of course, as we said, these inspectors claimed it was safe, and now people have died because of it. So we'll watch and see what happens there. Crump is going to continue to make a lot of noise until answers, the right answers, or at least honest answers are finally obtained. And of course, someone's going to pay as well. They should. Well, staying in the South, South Carolina is preparing to make history. Now, this is a really, really interesting story. Um, they will create the first individual statue of an African American on the State House lawn, honoring Robert Smalls, a Civil War hero whose life story is nothing short of extraordinary. Smalls was born into slavery, but in 1862, in an audacious act of bravery, he stole a Confederate ship, disguised himself as a Confederate officer, and sailed his family and several other enslaved people to freedom. The act made him a hero of the Civil War, but Smalls's contributions did not end there. After the war, Smalls went on to serve in both the South Carolina House of Representatives and the U.S. House of Representatives. He played a key role in rewriting South Carolina's Constitution to include equal rights for Black men, and he fought tirelessly for education, civil rights, and the betterment of his community. However, his legacy has been largely overlooked. You don't hear as much about him as you should. The state legislature did pass a bill that honored um, Smalls with this statue on the State House lawn. Uh, the State House grounds are currently filled with monuments to Confederate soldiers and leaders, many of whom fought to maintain the system that Smalls so courageously defied. The fact that his statue could stand taller and more prominently than those of Confederate figures is a powerful symbol of progress and reconciliation, some say. But the question of how best to represent Smalls is still being debated. Should the statue, for instance, focus on his daring escape, which is what he's, of course, best known for, or should it highlight his achievements as a statesman and a leader during Reconstruction? Some argue that his legacy is too rich to be captured by a single statue and that it should incorporate multiple aspects of his life. But others say, hey, regardless of how they determine the final design, the statue should serve as a reminder of his incredible contributions to American history, that history that they want you to forget about. Orange G says there is a movie coming out about Mr. Smalls. Mike V says sounds like a patriot to me. Because I mean, listen, this was a man who truly fought for freedom in every sense of the word, from the literal battlefields of the Civil War to the political battles of Reconstruction. So now this is more than 100 years after he died. His legacy is going to be cemented in the very place where the fight for equality is still ongoing. Incredible, incredible stuff. Love bringing those type of stories. That is that's an incredible um thing that's going down there in South Carolina. Could you imagine too? That lawn is filled with Confederate soldiers and officers. And now this black man who fought against all of that will stand tall among those statues. Because South Carolina, they will never get rid of the Confederate stuff. They're just not going to do it. So the fact that they are finally honoring this man like this it's an incredible thing. And so hopefully as many descendants of Mr. Smalls as possible can be there to witness this. Because that's something else. Well, from DC's preparations for election night to the incredible legacy of Robert Smalls, these stories remind us all of the complexity and importance of our history and our future. So thank you so much for continuing to join Let It Be Known to allow us to bring you these incredible stories and information that you can use. So go to YouTube and subscribe, LIBK-news, and come back again tomorrow for some more news and information you can use. And we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.